All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to pull back the curtain on an idea that feels so incredibly modern, but its true story, well, it starts in a place you would never, ever guess. I mean, seriously, have you ever thought about it? The whole concept that our thoughts can literally shape our reality, maybe even heal our bodies, it feels so now, doesn't it? Like something that came straight from a 21st century wellness blog. But the real story is so much older and honestly, a whole lot weirder. And just look at how deep this idea runs today. It's the engine behind the entire self-help industry. It's a cornerstone of modern psychology and therapies like CBT. It powers every mindfulness app on your phone, it's the core of the law of attraction, and it even shows up in the foundational principles of recovery programs like AA. I mean, it is everywhere. But the person who lit this fuse, he wasn't some modern guru or famous psychologist. He wasn't on TV. He was a 19th century clockmaker from Maine, a guy with almost no formal education. And that is where our story gets really interesting. So, who was this guy? Let's dive into the personal crisis that sparked a discovery that would, and this is no exaggeration, pretty much change the world. So here he is, Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, born way back in 1802. He wasn't a scholar, no fancy degrees. He was a craftsman, the son of a blacksmith, a brilliant clockmaker and inventor for sure, but absolutely not the kind of person you'd expect to kickstart a philosophical revolution. So what pushed him down this path? Well, it wasn't just curiosity, it was pure desperation. He was suffering from what they used to call consumption, which we now know as tuberculosis. And the official medical treatment at the time, something called calomel, which was, get this, a toxic mercury compound. Yeah, it was basically poisoning him. But then he started to notice something strange. When he was doing something really intense and distracting, like a fast horseback ride, his symptoms would just disappear. And that was the light bulb moment. He started to think, wait a minute, maybe the mind has way more power over the body than anyone thinks. His search for an answer led him to a traveling lecture on mesmerism, kind of the 19th century version of hypnotism. At first, he was a total skeptic. He thought it was a complete humbug, but he couldn't shake the idea. This concept of unseen forces influencing the body totally hooked him, and he just had to start experimenting himself. So he finds this young man, Lucius Berkmar, who turned out to be an incredible subject. While he was hypnotized, Lucius could seemingly diagnose people's illnesses. Now, Quimby thought the healing came from magnetic forces or special tools he was using, but then one day a simple mistake changed everything. He forgot his magnets, and the patient got better anyway. That was his aha moment. And this one little accident led him to his radical conclusion, the single idea that underpins everything that followed. He realized the healing wasn't in the magnets, it wasn't in the hypnosis, it wasn't in any outside force at all. It was all in the mind. As he famously put it, the explanation is the cure. So from this, Quimby developed his whole system, the mind cure. He believed that sickness wasn't fundamentally physical. Instead, it was an error in a person's thinking, a false belief that had taken root. His method then was to simply sit with a patient, identify that false belief, and then, using simple reason and logic, explain the truth to them. The theory was, you correct the thought, and the body will follow. And to him, this wasn't magic. He considered it a science. But this very strange idea from a clockmaker in Maine, well, it didn't stay quiet for long. It sparked a movement and ignited a massive controversy that, believe it or not, is still going on today. First, let's just get a sense of his direct impact. In just the last 7 years of his life, working from this small office in Portland, Maine, he treated over 12,000 people. So this wasn't some fringe idea being whispered in a corner. This was a massive, full-time practice. And you can literally trace the ripple effect of his work right to our doorstep. It starts with Quimby, then his patients, people like Mary Baker Eddy and the dressers, take his ideas and start to formalize them. From them, you get a new wave of leaders who found huge movements like unity in religious science. And that wave eventually crashes into modern culture, shaping just about everything in self-help and wellness today. But that's the nice, clean version of the story. The reality was a lot messier, and it all centered on his most famous and definitely his most controversial patient. At the heart of it all is Mary Baker Eddy. She came to Quimby as a patient and was profoundly helped. Later, she went on to found Christian Science. Now, her critics say she just took Quimby's secular science and slapped a religious label on it. But her defenders, and Christian scientists themselves, argue that her system was a totally distinct divine revelation. So you see the split. For Quimby, healing was about correcting a false human belief. For Eddy, it was about understanding a divine truth from God. And the debate gets really messy because of these lingering questions. What really happened between them? A huge part of the problem is that Quimby's own writings weren't even published until 1921, decades after he died and long after Christian Science was an established religion. This led to accusations that maybe his followers edited his legacy specifically to undermine Eddy's story. It's a fascinating historical puzzle with no easy answers. So, okay, let's bring this all home. Why does a 19th century clockmaker and his controversial ideas still matter so much to us right now in our world? Because here's the punchline. What was once a radical, almost unbelievable idea is now completely mainstream. The belief that your mindset impacts your health, your success, your whole life. That is Quimby's ghost living in our modern world. He didn't just invent a cure, he invented an entire way of seeing ourselves. So ultimately, when you look at his life, his discovery, and his really complicated legacy, it all boils down to one simple but incredibly profound question. It's the question he asked his patients, and it's the one his work now poses to all of us. Stripping away all the history and all the controversy, this is the challenge Quimby leaves us with. If our inner world truly has the power to shape our outer world, then maybe the most important question we can ever ask ourselves is this: what reality are you choosing to create? Right now, with your thoughts.